So let me just start out this video by saying for the last 6 days, I have contemplated making this video, and each and every time I was like, no, I shouldn't make it. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with stuff we usually talk about on the channel, stock market, business. I'm like, why should I post this on the channel? And finally, I'm like, dude, we're just gonna do this. We're just gonna get this out on the air. Basically, I suffered a panic attack in bed it was late Saturday night going into Sunday morning. It's not the first time I suffered a panic attack in my life. And I want to kind of go through it with you guys. I was just reading earlier today that actually 1 to 2% of the population, it's estimated, actually goes through a panic attack at some point during the course of a year. And this is something that's not really talked about very often. I mean, most of the time, if you hear of somebody that has a problem, mentally, usually it's like depression or something like that, which, by the way, thank goodness I don't have depression, because that's got to be a horrible thing to go through. A panic attack can come up every few months or maybe every few years, whereas from my understanding at least, something like depression is usually with you every single day, and that's a hard thing to get out of. Eventually you might be able to get out of it, but it's difficult, right? But panic attacks and anxiety attacks, which from my understanding, basically they're used as the same thing. Like if you hear somebody say they had a panic attack or anxiety attack, from my understanding, they're around the same thing. And so being that I've gone through this a couple of times, I just want to kind of walk you guys through, like, if you are ever in this situation, you actually have one of these, like, what is the best case scenario? Like, what should you do in that situation? Because it is not fun. Now, first off, if you don't know basically what happens, your mind starts racing so fast that it almost feels like you're out of control, almost like an outer body experience, but it's a horrible feeling, okay? This isn't like a fun out of body experience. It is absolutely horrible. Your mind is racing so fast, and you're just thinking about whatever you're thinking about, and is just bothering you so much that you literally start to panic. Your heart starts beating out of your chest. Like, literally, I was laying down in bed and like my heart was just beating out of my chest. You start shaking. Like, I tried closing my eyes and I'm like, maybe it'll just go away. Your eye starts twitching. Like, it is out of control. It is, your mouth starts feeling dry, almost like if you ever went, and did a bunch of sprints or something like that, and you were just like dying out of breath, and your mouth starts feeling all dry. It starts feeling like you have grass in your throat or something like that. That's how it starts feeling. It feels awful. It feels absolutely awful. It is certainly not a fun thing. I've only gone through 2 of these from what I remember in my entire life. The first one, I was probably 20, maybe 3 or 24 years old. We were living out in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I think at that time, my wife, who was at that time my girlfriend, she was pregnant with our first child. And then also I knew I was going to probably be leaving my workplace. And one night I just remember being in the living room and I started having this like anxiety attack, panic attack, whatever you want to call it. And my goodness, that was my first time going through it, and it was not fun. And the other night, I had one in bed, and it's awful. It's awful. That's all I can describe it as. It's absolutely awful, okay? So in my opinion, there are a few things you can do to kind of get out of this, okay? The first is you need to, as soon as you, like the worst part lasts probably like 30 seconds to about a minute, and that's like the worst part. Like that's like the most violent, where you're just like out of body experience. You're just literally in like this panic mode. You're just out of control in your head. And that usually lasts around 30 seconds to a minute, but it feels like an hour because it's just an awful feeling at that particular time. And then I recommend, as soon as you get out of that, to remove yourself from wherever you're at. I mean, literally physically get up and walk away. And you're not even going to really need to tell yourself to do this, because your mind's going to be telling you to do this. Both times I ever had panic attacks, both times I was just like, I had to get out of wherever I was at that particular time. And where I was at the other night, I was in bed, right? And I thought, oh no, I can just fight it and I'll just stay in bed. And that was a horrible decision, because then I had a second panic attack a few minutes later. And so that's why you just want to get out of wherever you're at. Like, my mind was just telling me, go to the backyard, go to the front yard, go in the car, do something, get out of the situation you're in, because you just literally just have to physically get out of that space. And what's funny about that, it was probably about 40 degrees outside, and I was in boxers, and literally my mind was telling me that it was a better option to just go outside or go for a drive or something like that in my boxers in 40-degree weather than to stay in that bed at that particular time or wherever you're at. And I remember the other time I had one in Charlotte, North Carolina, I was in the living room, and all my mind could tell me was just like, go on the balcony or go outside or do something, get out of wherever physical space you're in. So I highly recommend that, because the other night I tried to stay in bed, and it was a horrible decision, because then I had a second one, and then I had what started feeling like a third one, and then I was like, I gotta get up, I gotta get out of bed for the moment. I actually woke up my wife, I told her, kind of what happened and whatnot, and it's not fun, guys. It's a vulnerable feeling, and it's something some people have to go through every once in a while, and you never know when it will creep up on you. But you know, from my understanding, if you've gone through something like this, you're probably going to go through something like this later on in life. Okay. Now, I've heard of people having it out actually, like you know, at school or at the workplace or something. That's got to really be an awful feeling. Like, I've had both of mine at home. Okay. The first one was when we had our apartment in Charlotte, and then the other one was the other night at our home now here in Vegas. So both times we're at home, and that's probably a much easier situation. I can only imagine if you're in a meeting at work or something like that and you start having one. But I would say, regardless, remove yourself from that situation. I don't care how, you know, embarrassed you think it might be, and how, you know, not everybody understands it, right? It's something different, and some people might say it's just, so, you know, weakness of the mind or whatever. But in my opinion, you just don't be embarrassed by something. Remember, you're not the only one that goes through this. 1 to 2% of the population, from my understanding, goes through this each and every year. Okay, so you're not the only one that deals with something like this. Regardless, if you're at school, it doesn't matter. If you feel like you're just having a panic attack, like, just get out of that situation, remove yourself, just think like, it's gonna be okay, we're gonna get through this, okay, we're gonna get through this. Something, you know, like just getting out in nature, just like looking at trees and looking at skies. I know it sounds silly, but honestly, it's the best thing for you, to just get out of that situation, get your mind off of whatever you were thinking out of that was just causing that panic attack at a particular time. And I feel like the people that watch my videos, you might be a little more, there might be a higher probability that you guys will go through a panic attack or an anxiety attack at some point in time, because you guys probably care a lot more than the average person, maybe whether it's about business or maybe you own your own business, maybe, you know, you're investing in the markets and, you know, the volatility or something like that. That, by the way, my panic attack had nothing to do with any of that. Like, it had nothing to do with anything money related. So thank goodness. It was about something family related, but I feel like a lot of people might have something if they have some anxiety around money or something like that and actually go through something like that. So I feel like you guys might be, you know, a little more likely to experience something like this at some point in your life. But once again, don't feel like you're the only one that's going to go through something like this, because believe me, it's a lot more people than you think. 1 to 2% is estimated, but who knows how many people actually go through something like this, but they don't actually report it, no one knows about it or something like that, because they feel like they're a freak, or no one goes through this, right? And because you don't hear about it a lot, right? There's only one other person in my entire life that I know that has actually gone through, you know, a panic attack or anxiety attacks or something like that, that at least has disclosed that to me. So it's not something that, you know, just everybody talks about and it's obvious or something like that, like, you know, depression or something like that. Usually that's pretty obvious to see in somebody, or they might even tell you about it or something like that. A panic attack or anxiety attacks, it's just not something that's talked about very often. So I hope I did my part in just kind of telling you guys what it's like and kind of how to get through it. It's certainly no fun, but just get out of that physical situation. Remember, it's going to be okay. Try to get outside, get some fresh air, you know, see the leaves, and just concentrate on something else. Just try to get your mind off that. You will get through it. It's just it's a painful moments. It's painful moments, guys. So anyways, hope this guys helped you. As always, thank you for watching. Have a great day.